previous journey, I want this call, or I want this talk to be a conversation along with the people who are listening to me today. This is something which I don't want to bore anybody here from just a long talk. This needs to be a conversation because entrepreneurship is something which is still untouched when we talk about talking about it, when we talk about experiencing it, because it cannot fit in a format. Everybody has a different format. Everybody has their own ways to practice, to become an entrepreneur. I have my own opinion about entrepreneurship and what exactly social entrepreneurship is. I will also put some light on what we do at Ashoka, as I have been inducted as one of the Ashoka Young Changemakers. Well, I will also talk about what is like to be a change maker, and how do we see our world where everyone is a change maker. So thank you again for inviting me for this talk. I would start from my journey for Silaigram. So my name is Vasudev. I am a social entrepreneur. I started my entrepreneurial journey right after my 12th grade. I used to work as I'm working as a social worker. That's my primary thing. Initially, I went on an exchange program when I was in my 10th grade on a State Department's Kennedy Lugar Youth Exchange and Study Program. In that program, I was there in United States for 1 year on a cultural exchange, where I was hosted in a host family, and then learned their culture, shared mine, did peace building through that program. Came back, did my 11th and 12th grade from Nagpur. I joined an NGO when I was in 12th grade, learned about how social organization work, how we can work on impact. We will talk about impact in the later part of the talk. Then I realized that where is that gap where we are saying where impact is not being sustainable, where we are helping people, but that help is not being the permanent help. Either they are being dependent on us, or there is a gap where we need to fill in. 2017, I met one of my friends through NGO. He was a techie. He used to code in more than 7-8 languages, and I started my entrepreneurial journey from there. So we both decided to start up a company which will provide technical services, which will work in artificial intelligence and blockchain. So 2017, I started with Shantanu. He's my co-founder, and we started Propohat Technologies. That's my first company, first startup I started up, and still it's been 3 years now. I am co-founder and CEO at Propohat Technologies Private Limited. While in 2018, when I was back in my hometown, I stay in Nagpur, but my parents still live in my hometown called Pulgaon. This is a small town in Wardha district in Maharashtra. It all started when in my neighborhood, I got to know people are staying hungry for more than 3-4 days. And that is something which is not natural for anybody who can stay hungry for that many days. So we decided, what can we do about it? Either you can feed the people, either you can, provide some ration to them for more than, I don't know, a month or so. But how can you sustain a family if they are not having sources of income, not having sources for, feed their family? So we realized that this problem has been common in our community since years, and there is no sustainable way to address this. Then there was my friend, her aunt has a garment factory. They were also working on something which we were calling textile based. Simultaneously, although for the inspiration behind Silaigram has been my mother. In that area, my mother has been running training institute for ladies who can stitch, ladies who can start their own beauty salon and stand up on their own feet. But we realized when people are skilled, there has to be skill to opportunity ratio needs to be common. I mean, if I say 100 people are getting skilled in a specific sector, we need to have at least 150 jobs for at least those 100 people. But when you talk about here in India, we are skilling people to up to our maximum level, but we are not focusing on how are we going to create jobs. Either we'll have to create jobs to employ these skilled people, or we will have to make these skilled people entrepreneurs to create more jobs. So for us, it was both were the solutions, but we had to come up with a venture or something which would solve three problems. One, the hunger, which we were talking about. Second, the unemployment, which we're talking about. And third, the stereotype of this society when it comes to women in rural India. In my childhood, I saw, I experienced taboo, I experienced inequality, I experienced, girls not going to school properly or dropping out, girls getting married at their early ages, not even getting to graduate properly. These problems still exist in rural parts of India, even in the urban parts. It's not that big of a shocker for us because we are living with this. But what has happened in our society is we have accepted this as a new normal, and that is the problem right now. Problem is not just unemployment. Problem is not just about people's behavior. It is all about acceptance of this fact as a normal. We have to count this as an abnormal. When I had a talk with my mother, she was like, "This has been there since decades, where people are not having properly food properly in their homes. People are not having jobs." So then I asked her, "What can we do to get these people to work for a job?" Then my mother told me that these ladies can stitch. These ladies can stitch a very good amount of work. But then how are we going to create that many jobs for these ladies who are skilled? Again, as I initially talked about, skill to employment ratio needs to be at least equal. I mean, both of those sides needs to be equally there so that we can employ people. Now, then we realized that recently that in 2018, Maharashtra banned plastics, single-use plastics. And there was a big problem of bags. There were big problems of people using plastic bags since government has banned it, so they didn't have an alternative. Then we realized, I think we can do something about it. Then I called 5-6 ladies who used to get trained, who used to be the trainees at our center in Pulgaon under my mother. They came up and then I asked, "Can you make fabric bags if we start something?" So they were ready about it because something is better than nothing. So they came up and they said, "Let's stitch first 100 bags." So I fetched the order through my client in Procohad, my tech company, and they agreed to buy 100 bags from us for an event. I gathered 5 ladies initially, and they started stitching the bags. And we still were not in we were not thinking about that this will come up as a venture. Then we realized this is taking some shape. Then when we started with 5 ladies, it took us very long to complete that first 100 bag order because we were worried about quality, we were worried about finance, we were worried about completing that order on time. We did not know what is the recipe to start something like this because there was no recipe at that time. Even in today, if anybody starts something, there is no actual recipe for something. There is no actual process how you need to start a venture or something, and it was a learning process for us. So later on, with those 5 ladies, we completed that order. We gave it to the client. They were happy about it, and then we gained confidence. Yes, this is something which we can take it forward. Then my sister stepped in and she said, "I can fetch some order from market for getting these bags." So this was looking like a solution to a bigger problem, but the solution was small. The bigger challenge in front of us was how we can make this more sustainable, that this can be replicated in other parts of the rural areas. Then I met my friend. Her aunt has a garment factory, and they were making garments for bigger brands like Lifestyle and Max, etc. So they had a problem statement. I will give you some facts which you will not believe, but these are the facts which sometimes shook our mind. For a T-shirt, if you wear a T-shirt, let's an example, you buy a T-shirt from US Polo. It's a red T-shirt, let's say, and you buy a T-shirt from. Have you ever asked the outlet person that how much water it has taken for US Polo to make this T-shirt? Have you ever asked how much of energy it has taken for that T-shirt to make? If you dig in for facts on Google or some trusted places, it takes 27,000 liters of water for one single T-shirt to come as a finished product. If you talk about carbon footprint, it's way more than making something out of plastic. When you talk about a cloth bag, which is made from a new fabric, it is more harmful than a plastic bag. Yeah, you heard me right. If you are using a cloth bag which is new, let's say you are going to that big bazaar store and the vendor or the person who is filling your bag says, hey, do you need a bag? And you say yes, because it's a cloth bag. But if you see, those bags are made from a new fabric. So the carbon footprint of that bag is way more than the carbon footprint from a single-use plastic bag. Why is this happening? Because textile industry is a cumbersome industry when it comes to energy, when it comes to carbon footprint. So we had two bigger problems in front of us. Either we need to find a solution to come up way more sustainable than new fabric bags. And second, what happens to the waste which comes out of garment industry? Every industry in our country, every business, industry, educational institution, homes, schools, religious places, every single place generates waste. And this is a very bitter truth that we need to accept. But we accepted this as a new normal, that when it comes to waste, we just tend to take it as a normal. I'll fill in that garbage bag and give it to that garbage person. And this is the new normal we are living today. When it comes to textile industry, you cannot imagine how much of waste it comes every month from a single garment factory. So my friend came up with this problem that they have these fabric katrans, what we call is leftover fabrics from cutting from a roll. If you have 1,000 meter of fabric and they cut it out for some production of kurta, so more than 100 to 150 meters of fabric goes to waste, because these are side cuts, these are the leftover fabrics from that roll, or there is some misprint, or there is some fault in size or print of that thing. Everything goes to the dumping yard. Because of the quality standards, you cannot use it in the market, but the fabric is good. We have made the fabric is good, but there is no use of fabric. This is a bigger problem in our textile industry, specifically India being the textile hub. So then we had a brainstorming session how we can use this waste fabric in something. Then I had a meeting with my ladies who were working at Silaigram, and they said we can make bags out of it, and the local kirana stores will love it. And they said, let's test it around. So my friend sent me around 100 kgs of that fabric from Bombay to our center. And then we started sampling bags. We started, making some usable products which people could accept. And that was a hit. We went to some local kirana stores, and then we asked, would you like bags which are, different in colors, different in designs, from a fabric which has been tested for wearing? That means if you wash the bag as well, it won't lose color. And the kirana store people loved it, and they said, yeah, definitely we'll take it. So we got the fabric and we started producing bags from the waste fabric. And from that day onwards, Silaigram has not got any new fabric for making bags or any of the products that we make. And that art, that thing, I mean, that process that we call is upcycling. If you ever go to Google, or if you search about it anywhere, you'll find now upcycling. Within last 4 years, India has now got a new trend of using upcycled, or using products which are made from waste, or which are made from leftover materials from industries. We started from 100 kgs of fabric in that initial days. Now at our center, in these 2 years, our center at Pulgaon, more than 2 to 3 tons of fabric is getting processed every month. That 2 to 3 months of fabric used to go into the landfills. The textile has very harmful chemical dyes, which they used to dye it around with the fabric. Now that 2 to 3 tons of fabric is creating employment to more than 25 ladies. Imagine, we are using waste to not only just solve a problem, not only to provide employment, but we are also solving a problem of livelihood. We are solving a bigger problem of plastics by a waste which is cheaper, which is convenient, which is designer, which is cool in the market. And within these 2 years, these are the facts which got us here to this level. In 5 years, we started from 5 ladies. Today, in 2021, we are employing more than 25 ladies at our center. We started from 100 kgs. It grew up to 2 to 2.5 tons a month. That is the number of fabric which we are processing. We started from cloth bags. Now we have more than 17 different types of products which is going to the market. We had local kirana stores which were buying our fabric, which were buying our products. Today, we are supplying it to major retail stores and industries which are buying our designer bags as their bulk. We are giving them a bulk supply to them before pandemic, and we are restarting again post-pandemic as well. In the pandemic days, we made more than 15 to 20,000 masks, which were made by the fabric which we're using. It helped a lot of people in slums to tackle from this pandemic, which were not using any mask, or they were not even accessible to the mask. We tied up with more than 6 to 7 NGOs who got our masks and distributed in various parts of the city as well as other rural parts. One of our partner companies called Mimansa, we tied our hands with them. Mimansa did a research with IIT Bombay. We came up with a technology where we were coating the fabric with a special coating which could disinfect and kill the coronavirus on its surface, which we call DuraProt. DuraProt technology is an IIT Bombay patented technology in which we are producing these masks and sending it all over India. I will post the link in the group as well. So throughout this journey, I realized that if we look at the problem from a bigger perspective, we can design, we can come up with solutions, initiatives to solve this problem. All it needs, one is empathy for the people you are, engaging with. Second, along with empathy, you need to realize the problem. How will you realize the problem? You have to live with that problem. Until and unless I stay hungry that day, I wouldn't have realized the problem which these people have been facing, because we get 3 times of meal every day at our table, but some people don't. So try stay hungry for one day, not by your choice, only on water, and we'll understand how that hunger feels like. So in my journey of social entrepreneurship, I believe that there is no set format. There is no set format for starting an initiative, being an entrepreneur. When we talk about social, it doesn't need to be non-profit. It can be a for-profit initiative. For example, Silaigram is a for-profit social impact company registered as a proprietary firm under my mother's name. And we have been creating impact along with the profits that we are making. And these profits are being used to expand this initiative, to replicate this model in various parts of the rural country. Until and unless we don't find a sustainable way or a circle which we can run it as we have learned a lot of cycles in our schools, right? The water cycle, the economic cycle, the food cycle. We need to work on a circular economy where we are dealing with not just one problem, but a solution which can address many problems. For example, in Silaigram, we are not only just solving the problem of waste, we are creating livelihoods. We are empowering people in the rural areas. When I started with those 5 ladies initially, we had a major problem, not the finance, but something which we had called community stereotypes. These women were not allowed to work at our workstations initially, but my mom had to go to their places to make their families understand why is it important for them to step out of the home and create livelihood. They were ready to live in a miserable circumstances, but they were not ready to let their women work and earn a livelihood for their homes. This is the biggest stereotype in our country that we are facing. And I believe that if we step out, if we break a stereotypes like this by just, creating a change bit by bit, not like I'm asking people to start their own ventures directly, but you can start with a small conversation. Have a conversation with the community regarding how we can include people, how we can make an equal society. These are some issues which can be solved if we believe that we are an entrepreneur by our behaviors, by our competencies. It is not about skills what you have. The skills can be mastered. You have to learn, you have to master a skill. You can forget the skill as well. If I learn how to play tabla and 10 years I don't play tabla, 11th year I will not know how to play tabla the way I used to play. It's same about skills. So when it comes to entrepreneurship, it is not about skills. It is about your competency, which you have by your birth. I mean, you cannot be incompetent in something like you know how to eat, you know how to drink water, you know how to do your daily chores. This is about your competency. You don't forget competency. All you have to do is practice it to your fullest. And that is what entrepreneurship is all about. Goal setting, information seeking, systematic planning, monitoring. These are things, these are the competencies that an entrepreneur should have. If you are working at a place as an employee, if you are working as an intern, let's say you are an owner of a company, you are a teacher at a school, you are an employee at an IT company, everyone is an entrepreneur if they have all the competencies. It's not just about somebody who can start a venture, that person is an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs are ones who are competent, who have all those 10 competencies like goal setting, information seeking, systematic planning and monitoring, persistence, commitment, demand for efficiency and quality, persuasion and networking, then independence and self-confidence. These are things which needs to be there in an entrepreneur when it comes to competencies, when it comes to being an entrepreneur by your behaviors. And your behaviors will bring your leadership as an outcome. A lot of people talk about leadership is a skill you can master, but that only happens when you practice your competences to your fullest. So I will suggest everyone here who is listening to this talk that if you want to create change at Ashoka, where I have talked about, I'm associated with Ashoka Innovators for the Public. This is a non-profit, international non-profit organization which works on creating, enabling people to become social entrepreneurs. Started by Mr. Bill Drayton. He is a MacArthur Grant winner. In 1980s, he termed the actual term social entrepreneur. Who are these people we call as social entrepreneurs? And then we started on a concept called change making. And everybody here who is listening today are change makers. And that is the world we are looking for, where everyone in our community can become change makers. It's not about I am being, I'm satisfying a specific criteria that I need to be a change maker. Everyone here is a change maker in their own ways. Somebody who is planting one tree, somebody who is, employing somebody at their places, somebody is creating awareness about a crucial issue. Everyone is a change maker. And there is no specific age to become a change maker. When we talk about Ashoka Young Change Makers, in my cohort, I am the oldest, being 21 years. We have Ashoka Young Change Makers who are 14, who are 12, who are 16. one of my fellow colleague in Ashoka Young Changemakers, Garvita Gulati, she started an initiative called Why Waste, and her idea was to convince restaurants to fill the glass, the water glass that they give you on table, to fill it halfways, not full ways, so they can save as much of water. Like if, for example, if a restaurant is getting 100 customers a day, and let us say, every customer is using 250 ml of glass, water in a glass. So she asked all the restaurants to fill the glass on halfways, so that they can save half the amount of water that they have been using every day. And the restaurants liked it. She went to Restaurants Association and she got more than 100 restaurants to practice this on everyday basis. And millions of liters of water have been saved due to these initiatives. All you need is empathy for the problem. You need to be realizing that problem from your own. You have to live the problem to create a solution for it. And solution does not just come initially by your own ways. It needs to come through the problem. So you need to identify the problem, you need to live the problem, and then you need to design a solution for the problem. Have empathy for the people who are solving that problem, for the people who are creating that solution. And empathy can create a lot of difference when it comes to entrepreneurship, when it comes to your daily life, when it comes to family, when it comes to solving social issues. Nowadays, I'm practicing not only as an entrepreneur, I'm a social activist. I work for environment. I practice as an RTI activist, that they call it as an RTI activist, but I'm just using my own rights to procure information. So we are fighting a lot of fights here in Nagpur for saving environment. Here we are saving one Ajnivan related to 40,000 trees which are going to be chopped off for a development project. So we are doing a lot of things, but because we are empathetic about trees, we are empathetic about air pollution. We have seen a big surge of COVID cases in our city, where we have seen people are dying due to lack of oxygen. But in the next 10 years, if we don't talk about environment, if we don't focus on environment, then our future journey is going to be very difficult, because people are going to die more than COVID due to air pollution. These problems are very small right now. We can tackle them not by just planting trees, but also the saving the ones which are there, which are already serving the purpose. So I guess I have 10 more minutes. So I will take questions from this now. Thank you so much for the opportunity, for having me here to talk about something which I always love to talk about. And I will encourage everyone to have as many questions as you have. If you are looking to start something, if you are looking to have something in your mind which you can take it forward, I'm always there. And I think we can take questions now.
Thank you, Vasudev. So students, please feel free to ask any question. If you have any question, you can unmute yourself, unmute your microphone, or you can write in the chat option, chat window.
Hello, Vasudev. First of all, thank you very much for joining us today. I'm Dr. Vishal here. So I would like to ask you a couple of questions. So my first question is, how did you come up with the name Silaigram? Because many times I observe people usually go with the fancy names, and Silaigram is kind of very, I would say, like unique name for us, but not very fancy. So how did you decide with this name?
When it comes to the name, it was we decided this name overnight, because we were in a very rush how we can take this forward as a thing. So even in my company, in my IT company, we have a very simple name of our company. When I say, I type it in the chat box. This is the name of my IT company. From which I'll give you an idea how we came up with that name. So Proco Hat is the name of my IT company. It's simple, professional company of happiness and technology. It has to be that simple when it comes to the name. When we were, you know, when we were talking about how we can take this venture ahead, so I realized the skill, the thing which is empowering women needs to come out in the name. So it was about Silai, it was about stitching, and this was about rural area. This was about areas where we were talking, and these were about small villages, small towns. So nothing can be as easier than gram. So we joined both of the words as Silaigram. I took also inspiration from Mahatma Gandhi because I come from a district where Mahatma Gandhi lived for years. We have a town called Sevagram where you might have heard about Papukuti. So Sevagram also came from a similar idea where people wanted to do seva for the country, and a lot of satyagraha happened there as well. So we wanted to come up with a name which is indigenous, which is down to people. We did not want to come up with a name which could just to impress some investors or modern world. We wanted to empathize, we wanted to connect with the people who are working with us. So Silaigram connects with the people who we work with in rural areas, and they love the name.
That's lovely. And my next question is, when we talk about social entrepreneurship, people usually have a perception that it is not so profit making, and it is hard to find investors in this case. So did you face similar challenge like finding investor or arranging the funds for running it in the initial years? And I would also like to, most of the students in our university, so we are running actually a student startup program here, and we actually encourage our student to bring some, projects. It could be related to social problems where you can use some innovation and you can solve some social problems. But we hardly see any social startup coming up from the students. So what do you suggest them to how should they approach for social problems, and how should they come up with the solutions?
So two ways to look at this problem of starting something, a venture which we are talking about. In my initially and in my talk only, I talked about the person need to live the problem first. What we see is we have major problems in our country that everybody talks about. We say our country is poor, people don't have jobs, people are dying due to diseases and whatnot. But nobody wants to live that problem. Nobody wants to stay poor for a day. Nobody wants to stay poor for a week. And when it comes to people, when they start up a company, you will find a major trend. Out of 10 startups, 7 will not even survive a year, right? When it comes to social startups or social entrepreneurship, where people tend to get into this field for earn a living or to sustain their own lives, which is pretty much fair. But I believe when it comes to your initial vision of you being a social entrepreneur, it needs to be the solution first. It needs to be the people who you are targeting first, because social entrepreneurship is all about society. It's all about people. The way you present the solution, the logistics of that solution is a secondary part. But what happens is people tend to focus on that first instead of the solution and the people. So I believe if we keep the target audience at the core, at a primary function, and on a secondary base, we talk about finance, we talk about the way the venture needs to be, everything can be sorted out. First, at the core, you need to have empathy for the problem. You need to have, a vision which can empathize with the people. And I believe for being a social entrepreneur, I believe these things needs to be in a place where a person can be encouraged to become a social entrepreneur. A lot of times when I started this venture, I never thought about how I am going to finance this. I never had an idea how I still today, even after 2 to 3 years, we are running this initiative. We are bootstrapped. We haven't raised any capital. We haven't raised any bank debt yet, and we are bootstrapped. We started with small. Today we are self-sustaining our venture. And we need to ask this question first: do we really need to finance this? Do we really need to raise money? Because there is this, I don't know, in my opinion, there is this hype about, raising capital. There is this hype about, valuating your startup. But I believe when it comes to social ventures, it is about impact. How much of impact you are creating with or without funding. Trust me, this is all your investors, this is all your CSR partners, this is all the people are going to look in your venture when you are trying to be a social entrepreneur, when you are trying to solve a social problem. Impact is something which needs to be sustainable and which needs to be strong. If you are impacting 5 people, that's a good impact. It doesn't have to be 500 people. It needs to be a sustainable impact. If you're only targeting 5 people, then yes, okay, this is a good impact. So these are the things which we need to see on the bitter side of the story. Nobody wants to go and talk about that side of that problem. Everybody wants to say in that fancy, Netflix series where everybody say, I started this venture. On the 7th day, I'm raising $1 million. On the 15th day, my venture just valuated as some $1 billion, and I become that one CXO or one that famous startup guy. Now I'm going from investor to investor to run my firm. But where is the business, right? Where is the business? Where is the solution which we are talking about? Why did you start that company? That question remains unanswered. And when it comes to social enterprises, it's all about what problem are you solving and what's your solution, what's your way of doing the things. So that needs to be the primary thing. And I believe when it comes to financing, there are million ways. There are million people in this country who will fund you. Even if you don't want it, they'll come and say, hey, I have money, take it, please. If your solution is talking impact. And in Silaigram, we have got a lot of opportunities where people were interested to fund our ventures. People were interested to take this ahead when it came to impact. Because livelihood in this country can solve major structural conflicts like poverty, hunger, economic instability, inequality. Everything can be solved if we can provide livelihood to people of this country.
One last question. So you said you started this venture at very early age, like immediately after your 12th class, right?
Yeah.
And to me, or to many of us, this is the age where when students basically look for what next. I mean, I will crack IIT, or maybe I will go for medical or something like that. So they actually look for the career possibility at that stage. And this is so brave of you and your friends, whoever joined you in this movement. But how did you come up with this idea? Like, why didn't you think about where we should go for some sort of career making courses? Because the biggest challenge we face, and basically our university's goal is very different. We actually want to create job creators as well, beside creating job seekers. So we actually try to encourage our student to be the job creator later on, because no government can provide as many jobs as our population is. So how did you come up with this idea? I mean, because this is so brave of you. So I just want to know, and this will definitely inspire our students as well.
I'm going to be very honest on this question because you have touched a very sensible point where I want to talk about this. And here I want to empathize everybody who is here listening to me. I'm of the same age who I'm talking to. I just graduated last year. I started entrepreneurship where in a time where in our country, startup entrepreneurship, starting a business was something which people used to, discourage. Going against the flow of river is always difficult. And this is the same analogy I'm going to give you when it came to in that time. In 2017, it was all about 11th, 12th, IIT, medical, go to a college, complete your degree, get a nice seat. But when you see at a problem, for 100 seats, there are 1 million people applying. People are running behind things where the probability of 99% that they are going to fail. But that culture is being encouraged, that culture is being appreciated. People are putting lots and lots of money into it, where they need to be, just live that stereotype of that society. And when I was preparing for my medical exams, I realized that how difficult and how structured we have made this culture about education in this country. And this culture I'm talking about needs to change. And I rebelled. In my 11th and 12th grade, I gave my NEET. I decided not to go for my medical. I had a good score, but I did not, I told my parents that I won't be able to do it. I took admission in a BSc course in Nagpur, and in my first year only. So that was that one thing which I came out of, which took a lot of courage, because the last thing which you want to do is go against a mindset, go against a structural mindset that 100 people have, and you're the only one there to fight those 100 people. But I realized if I can go through this, then I can go through anything which comes along. Secondly, the fear of losing something. When I went to my exchange, a lot of people gave me this fear of losing that 1 year, which they said will create a huge difference in my life, which still I'm looking for what difference it has created negatively in my life. I'm still not able to understand it, where it is, because it didn't happen. That 1 year which I went to US and came back, it impacted my life. It turned my life around. I became fearless. I had more different priorities than my just education and something which everybody is scared about. Oh, if I lose 1 year of my professional life, I am going to lose, oh my God, what not? Right? So this fear needs to be, I lost that fear when I came back from US only. So I was not afraid about, losing that one seat or, not getting admission. It started from there. So in my graduation, I never thought about losing my degree. I never thought about, scoring less on my grades. I was only afraid about how am I going to take this forward? How am I going to set an example? Right? It was a new adventure. And trust me, today, what every institution is promoting startups, entrepreneurship. It was not there 3 years back. Nobody used to take the word startup. Nobody used to talk about entrepreneurship. And I was, in that time, in my first year of my college, I was criticized by my teachers for starting up something. I was shunned. I was, I was kind of discriminated, if I say. I don't know, that's a very strong word, but that's the way I felt. But I believe I took it as a challenge. I took it as something which made the whole story interesting, because that's how we make that's how we make people do things. If there is no encouragement, or there is no candy for you to run, you will never run, right? And the candy for me was to prove these people wrong. By the third year of my college, I hired 4 people from my college which were way more senior than me. And that was the example I set at that point. There was no ill intentions to prove anybody wrong, but I just wanted to set an example how we can encourage entrepreneurship and how we can just create an ecosystem where not just people will get jobs, but people will also become job givers. So I believe this is something which we need to start talking about. And I really appreciate that we are having this conversation today, that student needs to empathize, student needs to be sensitized that there is an option called entrepreneurship. You don't need to fear even if you fail. And there is no end of the world situation that if you don't get this degree, or if you don't get this position, you will just lose everything in your life. And I have left that fear in my life. I'm stepping up for activism. I'm stepping up for new ventures, new risks. If you don't take risk in your life, you're not an entrepreneur, I believe.
Yeah.
Hello, sir. Hello,
Yes.
sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Vasudev. I am Dr. Tejal Patel from School of Liberal Art and Management Study, P Savani University. Right. So I have one question.
Yes,
there are always required business canvas or business plan, right? So, is there any issue when we design the business plan for social entrepreneurship?
Ma'am, the core for this thing, I'll start from the core for this problem. When it comes to business model or business canvas, there are more than 100 different models which are available online, which will have an idea about. So that's the management part of that business. Specifically, when it comes to social entrepreneurship or social enterprises, I believe the core function of the solution which we are talking about needs to be decided first. That is what composition we are going to present this solution. There are many ways. If since you come from a field of management, you might have known compliances which can be done to present the solution in that way. So when we talk about business model, that means it needs to be a for-profit or a non-profit venture. But again, there is a public trust, then there is a Section 8 company, and then there is a for-profit company. So in out of these three, in which one you want to go, that's the first step we need to decide. And if we are talking about a public trust, that means there is no business. There is only donation. Then there are the projects. Then you have to utilize all the money that you have got, and you have to create impact. When it comes to a non-profit organization, there you can make a non-profit business model where you can generate money, but you cannot generate profits. That's where you create a business model regarding how that problem can be solved. So where I'll give you an example in Silaigram only, that we are a for-profit venture. We are a proprietary firm, and our business model is through the waste we procure. That's our raw material cost. The livelihood that we give, that's our fixed cost, the wages that we give, and the profit which is left, the difference of the rates and the profit which we gain through our products, that is completely getting invested in the future projects. And the people who are working with us, they get paid through the thing. So a lot of business canvases can fit in. It's up to us how we want to design, how we want to channelize the funds, channelize the business proposition in our venture. I hope this answers your question.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks.
So students and their mentors, if you have any questions, you can ask. So Vasudev, Pranshu Patel has a question. What are the main focus points for a startup?
Again, I said there is no set recipe or a 1 to 10 step guide to start up something. But yeah, I'll say set up goals first. The main focus should be your goals. You need to have clear, smart, articulative goals, time bound goals, and they need to be realistic. If you start with that, everything is going to be three things I'll ask you when you talk about starting up. One is you set proper goals, then you seek proper information, what are you going to do, and then you plan accordingly, and then you monitor that plan. These 4 points, I guess, going to be very important for you to starting up something.
Okay, any other questions? Participants?
Hi Vasudev, my name is Dr. Bindesh. I am from PP Savani University, and I would like to thank you for this a very good talk. And I am very pleased that you have delivered this talk because our university is located in such an area where we can do so many social startups because we are located in a tribal belt. We have industries also, everything. So the perfect combination can create so many startups, and I'm very glad that we have organized this session and you have delivered an excellent talk, and I expect that our students will do something in social startups. Thank you very much for your talk. That's it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bindesh. I believe today the universities not only just or the academics not only just be teaching or talking about entrepreneurship. I believe ventures like us or industries needs to join hands and come up with social engineering solutions. I believe we are doing this through United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. We are creating value chain of industries. We are creating value chain of startups who can join hands with experienced industries, which we call scale ups, and putting them into one format of competencies and making them provide solutions to more structural problems. And I believe at our PP Savani University as well, our students might be more interested to work with ventures who are already there, along with their new ideas and how we can come out with solutions and how we can practice them in the local area to come up with a what we call minimum viable product or proof of concept.
So Rohini wants to ask you, and she's saying you empathize with people, but there was a time when you needed support. So how you overcome? How do you overcome?
So two ways to look at this. When you empathize with somebody, that means you put your feet into their shoes, right? How do they feel in their own shoes? I'm giving an analogy. See, if you are trying to solve a problem for somebody else, so you need to empathize with them first, right? If you connect with them, then you will get to realize the details about that problem. And once you do that, I'm pretty sure the person you are giving the solution to, they will empathize with you as well because you thought about them. And that's the support I think you will need, and that's the support you should have instead of other supports, right? I believe in a very very structural way of encouragement where I like criticism. I love feedbacks. If you don't get wrong, or I'll say thoda sa, it's about you need to have people to point out your failures. You need to have people to criticize you so that you get to understand where are you going wrong. So if you are going through a hard time, if you are going through a time where you are discouraged or people are pointing fingers at you, that's the best time. That means you are getting feedback. People are putting interest in your thing. People are actually seeing from a third eyes perspective. So the best encouragement for you is criticism. And second, if you get feedback, that means you are improving your quality, your efficiency, and more you'll have these, more and more you'll improve, and you'll come up as some perfect solution for your problem.
Any more questions from participants? I guess not. So Vasudev, it was really great to have you for our student startup and innovation webinar. Your talk was really inspiring, very informative, and very insightful. Thank you for giving an excellent coverage to Journey of Silaigram. So the way you talked about your startup journey from idea to execution was really an eye-opener for all of us. So thank you for accepting our request to inspire our students for startup and innovation and entrepreneurship, and providing encouragement to our students and mentors. So thank you once again for taking out your valuable time for us. We are all inspired by your great words. You are really a great inspiration to all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
So thank you all the participants.